so much for having me here tonight. This is such an honor to be here, and I'm really, really excited to share with you some of my thoughts. We're here tonight to talk about food insecurity. What is food insecurity? Food insecurity, as was described just a few minutes ago, is not having access on a regular basis to fresh, safe, and culturally appropriate food. And right now in this country, 48 million people are living in a food insecure state. 48 million people just in our country alone. And that equates to 15 million children. 1 in 5 million children in the United States live in a household that is food insecure, at least some months out of the year. So that means that everyone in this room knows someone who's living in a state of food insecurity. How do we address this issue in our community? Well, I'd like to propose that we start with listening. We have to start with listening, not to me, not to the speakers, but to the people who are living, these 15 million children or 48 million people in our country who are living in a state of food insecurity every day. Think about who these individuals are in your community. Where can you start to make connections and begin to understand what this really means in your community? And understand that this is a personal issue and that the words that you choose to use really matter. When we use words like food desert, when we're talking about food insecurity, we're going to hurt people's feelings. We're going to turn people off right away. What is a desert? A desert is a part of our earth that was made by nature. Nothing grows there. Nothing can really live there. And yet at the same time, it balances our ecosystem of our planet, right? At the same time, a food desert was most certainly man-made. Food deserts were made by decades of redlining, corporate relocation, population shifts, rising housing costs, and other injustices that we have created. But at the same time, these supposed deserts are home to millions of people who are living their lives every single day, growing up and thriving. So something is definitely growing there. But to compare the two as even remotely similar is not fair, and it's insulting. We all want to do something, right? We all want to contribute in some way and make our community better. But the truth is that we need to understand each other first before we can really contribute in any meaningful way. Everyone in this room has fantastic ideas. I like to think that I have some pretty good ideas too. But the truth is that only you know what is best for you. And the same applies to the community. So we have to begin by listening to each other and talking. I would encourage you that when you're getting into these conversations and you're beginning to decide what to do, step outside of your comfortable circle of colleagues and friends and acquaintances and meet people where they're at. Meet people who are living this every day. Ask them, what's going on? What's happening in your life? And really, really listen to what they have to say. Don't come in with your ideas first. Listen first. When we start with listening, then we can begin to co-create. As you develop these creative partnerships, remember that when you're co-creating something, that means that 100% of everyone's ideas will not be fulfilled. But it does mean that something more sustainable, more robust, and more inclusive will be created because everybody's ideas were considered valuable. I don't know your community, I don't live in your city, and so I'm not even going to begin to suggest what you need to do specifically. But I will share my story and my experience and what I learned from it. When we opened Whole Foods Market in Detroit, Michigan, we dreamed of co-creating a type of new relationship between community and company. And we tried to bring that to reality. We started by really, truly investing in listening. doing exactly what I'm recommending that you do. Really sincere listening. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing not to just want to talk first, but to listen and be quiet. Silence is sometimes really uncomfortable. We listened to thoughts and concerns of community members. We listened to what people's dreams were for their neighborhoods and for their children. And we listened to what was already being done to address the issues. As part of this, we were committed to being honest and respectful and sincere. And we did this because we knew that there was so much that we didn't know, and we wanted to learn, and so we needed to listen. We knew that a usual business approach of coming in and doing what we thought was best was not going to work. And we wanted to develop true, meaningful relationships, and so we needed to listen. So we started hosting what we call community dialogue sessions. We hosted them in various parts of town, always choosing places where people were already gathering, understanding that we couldn't expect people to come to try to teach us something when it was our desire to seek out and learn. So we needed to meet people where they were. Our commitment also included providing opportunities in the community. Opportunities for employment and opportunities for food makers and product makers once we had a store that would be open as a place for them to sell their products. We set some goals, and then we asked some of the community leaders that we had met to join us in forming a community advisory board. And with this advisory board, we put together some goals for our store and for our company. We set a goal that at least 50% of the team members that we hired when we opened the store would be Detroit residents. We set a goal that at least 35% of the construction contract cost for building the store would go to Detroit-based contractors. And we set a goal of opening the store with 50 new, locally Detroit-made products on the shelves. And we asked the community to hold us accountable to these goals and also to help us fulfill these goals. On opening day, we opened the store with 72% of our team members being Detroit residents. And now the store's been open for about 2 years, and we're still doing pretty good at 68% of our team members in that store are Detroit residents. We succeeded our construction goal by 10%. And although we wanted to open the store with 50 new products that were made within the city limits of Detroit, we opened with 120. This dream was achievable because of co-creation. And co-creation worked because everyone was willing to participate. It took time, it took a lot of time, and it took patience, and it took a willingness for people to come to the table over and over again for 4.5 years. And for us, as a really fast-paced retail company, it was really hard for us to slow that machine down enough to listen. And fortunately, the community was really, really patient with us, and it worked. So how can you apply some of these things that I've talked about here today in your community? I shared with you some of the specifics of what we did in Detroit, but how can that be applied here? Who can you connect with? Who can you start a conversation with? Who can you start listening to? When you leave here today, think about what is that going to look like for you and your neighbors, and your community, and your coworkers, but also understand that what that looks like is not entirely up to you. It's definitely not up to me. It's up to everyone in this room and in this community to work together to co-create what you're all dreaming of. And when it starts with listening, anything is possible.